Marriage is a magnifier. It's either going to magnify the good or it's going to magnify the misery. But it itself will not correct the issues that already exist in a relationship. And boy, are there some issues people are facing when it comes to being married. But not because marriage is bad. As far as I'm concerned, marriage is an amazing, beautiful thing that I honestly believe more people need to embrace. But that's only when you marry the right person for the right reasons and you have the right foundation in place to have a successful relationship. Now, the reality is that I would argue most people have married the wrong person. It's just an unfortunate reality. And to be more specific, a lot of women have married, and I have to use the word, knowingly married the wrong man. Now, I say knowingly because deep inside, when I sit down with these women, divorcees, even women currently in their marriages, it's not that they never knew that there was issues, not that they never sensed something was wrong, but they wanted to believe in the good. They wanted to believe things could get better, or even worse, they thought things could change. And that's the issue here. We've got to start understanding that we cannot try to go from relationship to marriage, sweeping under the rug the issues, thinking it's going to change or get better, thinking that man will now magically figure it out after you decide to marry him. So you've got to start to accept or recognize even better when you're dealing with a man you do not need to marry or hell, even be in a relationship with, but let's make it about marriage. So one of those habits, and before I mention it, be sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. One of those habits of a man you should not marry is he's complacent. All right, now I want to read you the exact definition before I break this down. All right, the definition of complacent is showing smug or uncritical, I really want to highlight that, uncritical satisfaction with oneself and one's achievements. All right, so you heard me mention how women a lot of times get married thinking or hoping for things to change, not understanding that they're dealing with a complacent man, a man who does not see the need to change. And let's not even use the word change. He's not even seeing the need to grow. He's not seeing the need to evolve. He thinks where he's at is not just good enough. There's not a damn thing wrong with it. Notice, because he's complacent. He has uncritical satisfaction. He doesn't hear a damn thing you have to say about where he is. And I've seen so many women really convince themselves that they will be able to pull this man out of his complacency and make him into greater, or I can show him or motivate him to reach his full potential. But if he is complacent, he sees no need to go higher than what he is. So here's one example. I remember doing a quote on IG recently about, would you marry a man? And I think I said $40,000, okay? Would you marry a man who's making $40,000? And I said the words for the rest of his life, all right? And I did that for a reason. And I got a lot of responses from women saying, oh, as long as he has the right mindset, even though I already told you it's capped at 40 grand, right? If he has the right mindset, he has a plan in place. I also heard, oh, I can help him to get better. A lot of the women who voted yes, they would take that man, took him with the condition in their mind that it still would change. Rather than accepting the reality, he does not want to change. And we've got to realize, and this is not just a woman thing. In life, I have learned certain people are not wired to desire more. Certain people don't have that level of ambition, all right? They are literally okay where they are. And I'm not saying this to talk down on these people or to make them seem bad or evil, because I'm going to explain how complacency isn't always this horrible thing when you look at it from a different perspective. But I've met people who can make the same amount of money every year and it's a low amount, or what may be considered low to many. But to them, it meets their needs. They're okay with it, all right? And this is where you got to start understanding where it's not even just complacency anymore. It's they're content. They are literally content with where they are. And when you try to get with a man like this, even more so marry him, you've got to really ask yourself, am I okay if this never changes? Am I okay? Can I be content with his level of contentment? Can I accept where he sees his peak, not where I want to drag him to? Because if you catch yourself or put yourself in a scenario where you're trying to drag him past the complacency, past that place of being content, you now will create an unnecessary burden on yourself and be extremely frustrated because you're essentially dragging him kicking and screaming. And on his end, he will develop a very strong resentment because you are not accepting him where he is. And again, if you think marriage is going to make him step up even more, well, hell, we're going to have maybe kids one day and this and that. No. If his mind, if his wiring says this level's okay, you got to either, again, can you take it for what it is or no? So if he is complacent and you know you want more than what he is accepting, this is not a man to marry. This is not a man to entertain. And you've got to really understand and accept that. Now listen, I do think that a man can change. I do think that there are men who meet women and they are inspired. But I do believe that those men who want more, they already have something in them that wants it. Sometimes they need a kick in the pants. Sometimes they need some good encouragement and support. But they already have a wiring within that says go for more. And so this is why it's very important to evaluate it from that end of, okay, how are they really built? But it's more important that they find this within themselves, because now here's the other problem. If this is a scenario where you can help push him, if you are the only thing that helps get him to the next level, then now you put the burden on you to always have to put him on your back and get him there. Like, don't get me wrong. As a woman, when you get with the right guy, I do believe, as I said, marriage can magnify, and it can magnify the good. And if he has that work ethic, that desire, that ambition, you can magnify it. But if you are the only source of what motivates him, it's not his purpose, it's not a desire for self, it's nothing else but you, then when you want a day off from having to push and motivate, what's he going to do? Slack off now? Now he doesn't have it in him? When you're not staying on top of him and saying, you got to do this, you got to do this. Like, you don't want to have to deal with that forever. Now, listen, if you're going to tell me that's okay for you for the rest of your life to always be the one pushing, all right, cool. Do your thing. But what I have seen is that women don't mind giving a push, but they don't want to have to carry. You understand? They don't want to have to continuously carry this man. So to wrap this point up, if he is complacent and content and you are not accepting of the level that he has embraced in his life, that is not a man you should marry. The second type of man you should never marry is a man who is bad with money. So there's a few ways to look at this, all right? But let me start off by saying, I think we all know and can agree that finances is one of the biggest contributors of divorce. But I think what people don't understand is it's less about not making enough money. Like, a lot of people don't have, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people don't have I don't make enough money issue. They have a money management issue, all right? So, for example, I remember this couple, they were married, and they was always broke. Like, these folks stayed broke, right? But at the time, both the husband and the wife had low-paying jobs. And then at one point, it was just the wife working, okay? And then time goes on. They're pushing along. The husband finally gets a good job, all right, paying good money. The wife doubles her salary. And I'm thinking, okay, they made it. They're good. No more problems. Guess what? They were still broke, all right? Like, nothing changed. They were still paycheck to paycheck. Not because random things were happening that sucked up their finances, things that we just can't control. No, they were horrible managers of money, all right? Now, in this situation, it was both of them. But if it's both of you, then it's a big-time problem. But when evaluating the type of man you should be entertaining, you've got to look deeper than how much is he making. It's how does he handle his finances? Because a man who has not become a good steward of his money can easily destroy not just his life, but your life with him, all right? Can completely derail everything because he has not become disciplined with his finances. So before I even add to that, let me say this. In addition to, let me finish this point. I'm sorry. So he has to learn how to do that. Now listen, I'm going to throw this caveat in there. Because are there plenty of people who are married where the man is not the greatest with the finances and they're actually doing well in the marriage? That does exist. But in those scenarios, the man has forfeited all power and authority to the wife to handle the finances. If this is an agreed upon structure with you two, all right, to the point where you have enough control that you don't have to worry about his shortcomings in that area, okay, I'm not going to argue that because, again, can that work? Can that be managed if both people are on the same page with that? Yes. Outside of that, though, I would still argue you want to encourage this man if you're dating him, or you want to see that in him first, that he learns to have some basic fundamental discipline when it comes to money. However, again, you can't make it work if he hands over the power to you. But if that's not going to happen, then absolutely his inability to be good with money is a problem. So when you are dating, when you're in a relationship with a man, you've got to go deeper in seeing, does he even have savings? Does he budget at all? And I'm not saying like budget, for example. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm very good with my money. Do I have a very set budget? No. So is a budget an end all be all? No, but if he does have a budget, that says something. I've yet to meet people who have actual budgets, structured budgets, and aren't managing their money well. Typically, that shows someone who's very conscious and aware of their finances and trying to handle it in a very effective manner. So you want to look at that, savings, budgeting. What else does he have? How does he think ahead when it comes to money? How are his spending habits? Is he able to pay his bills on his own, or is he constantly asking to borrow money? That's a very important thing. And I say it because there's so many women with men who are always asking you to borrow money. Now listen, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I am not a fan of a woman lending men money. I'm not going to sit there and say that you're wrong if you do, that you're not allowed to if you're in a relationship to do it. I'm just not keen on it, okay? But if it's once in a while, once in a blue moon, things really happen and he just needs help for a moment and he doesn't have a bad track record of any kind when it comes to money, all right, I'm a little more flexible, right? But when you're starting to see a pattern where he's always needing to borrow, this shows you this man is not properly managing his money. Plain and simple. And again, you cannot overlook that. But I'm going to go a step further. It's not just money management. Is he too stingy with his money? Because here's the other thing women don't consider, or some women aren't considering. I've seen women get excited about dating a guy. Let's say the guy's a doctor, okay? And he's making over $200K a year. But what you don't know is he ain't spending a dollar on your body, okay? As far as he's concerned, his money is his money, all right? Do not assume because he is a doctor, because he's a high earner, that he's going to be a generous man, or he's going to be a man willing to pour into you financially in any kind of way. That is not an automatic, all right? So I've seen women get caught up with men who have money, but who are very stingy. And I have seen the stress, the frustration, the animosity it creates in the relationship. You could argue it's even worse than being with a guy who's struggling, because him struggling and unable to pour into you financially, there may be some sympathy there. There may be some more patience, because like, oh, okay, he's broke, or he doesn't have it right now. Okay, fine. But when he got it, you know he has it, and he's still not giving it to you, oh, you're going to feel some kind of way. You're going to feel pretty salty, all right? And I would argue, this is my perspective, I would argue that if he has it, he is very well off, and he goes as far as asking you to pay 50-50 on bills and stuff, he's not in love with you. Plain and simple. So he's damn sure not a guy you should marry. Just from, it's not even about the money. It's what his stinginess means, all right? To be stingy in a relationship to a woman you say you love, something's wrong. Something's off there, all right? So bottom line, if he is a bad manager of money and he is stingy with his money, this is not a man you should marry. So now that brings me to number 3, which perfectly piggybacks off of the last point. And number 3 is he's a selfish man. All right. So I don't want to put out the wrong information. I don't want to say this person's name just in case the story is false, but I heard recently a story of a celebrity who divorced their husband. This is a woman that divorced their husband because the way the story goes is that she used to, when she went to the store, buy the husband like their favorite cookies. I don't know if that's exactly what it was, but I'm just work with me here. She would always buy him his favorite cookies, okay? She would be considerate of him. She would think about him, all right? And then 10 years into it, one day, he had to go to the store for her. And when he came back, he didn't ask her if she needed anything. He didn't get her a favorite thing. Essentially, he did not think and consider her, all right? So I guess we can make this, he's selfish and he's inconsiderate. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, granted, I'm sure in that scenario, there was plenty of signs of being inconsiderate and selfish leading up to that. But that was the moment that hit her, that made her realize. And I think it's important to understand when I say it was 10 years of him probably acting out this way, but that one moment that hit her, because what I've seen with a lot of women is this pattern of overlooking the selfishness. And I think partially is because women, whether they're in love or they want to make this work, can become very giving or try to be very giving, but to the point where they become blind to the fact that they're not getting, all right? And so now in doing for this man and trying to accommodate him and being so focused on that, and don't get me wrong, you should be giving. You should give to the fullest. So do not stop doing that, but give with your eyes open. Do not become blind, all right? Give with the awareness of, is this being reciprocated or not? And so a lot of women miss the fact that it's not being reciprocated. And sometimes they chalk it up to, well, he's just a man. You know, I think sometimes there's this idea that men are just in general inconsiderate beings, okay? Now, I'll acknowledge that I do think to a certain degree, we're not as detailed as women, to the point that we may not catch the little small things that help us in those little moments do something special. Whereas with a woman, you guys catch everything, so it's easier to be even deep. There's a deeper level of consideration because you have gathered more information through your ability to capture all these little details and things going on. Men aren't as in tune typically. But to be flat out selfish and inconsiderate, that's not a man thing. That's a you're dealing with the wrong man thing. All right. And this is again where you really have to understand these are not things you're going to be happy with in the long run. So even if you want to say initially or while you're in the early stages of your relationship, oh, it's not a big deal to me, I don't need much. Okay, but will it not be a big deal to you in year 2? Will it not be a big deal to you in year 5? All right, and again, what did I say in the beginning? Marriage is a magnifier. It will magnify the good or it will magnify the misery. So if he is being inconsiderate and selfish in the relationship or in the dating process, he's not going to get better when you marry him. He will only get worse. You will only condition him to thinking this is acceptable behavior. So you've got to nip it in the bud as soon as possible. Now, again, all these things I'm mentioning, there's a way to go about how we handle this. And I'll mention that at the very end. But you've got to pay attention to, is he selfish? Is he inconsiderate? If he is, that's not a man you should be trying to marry. All right, now before I get to number 4, real quick, be sure to get your copy of The Man God Has for You. 7 traits to help you determine your life partner. It's going to cover some of the things we're talking about in this video, but it's going to go even deeper than that. Get your copy, best-selling book. Women are loving it. Click the link in the description or in the comment section. Now, the fourth habit that a man has that tells you should marry him is addiction issues. All right. So I'm going to say from the jump, I'm not an expert on addiction, but I do believe that this is one of those things where it has to be properly addressed and resolved before you can move forward. Now, let me say something. This does not mean dismiss a man who once had addiction issues. If he had it in the past, but he's done his work and corrected it, good. I'm not saying that doesn't mean it can't come back around one day. But I do think that the key thing in understanding if there's a good chance of it coming back around or not is how has he grown from it? Has he simply removed himself from those environments, or has he truly changed his lifestyle in a way that allows him to reject his old ways? All right. If that has occurred, cool. If not, then again, if it cannot be properly addressed before moving forward, then you can't move forward. And addiction can be alcohol addiction. It can be drug addiction. Hell, it can be porn addiction. All right. Now, again, I said I'm not an addiction expert because I will say that what we qualify as addiction, I'm sure you've got to talk to a professional in that field to understand what is crossing that line. And I say that because when it comes specifically to even porn or even alcohol, some people may feel like the level they are is not addiction. It is normal behavior in their mind. All right. But now my understanding of addiction is when it now hinders their life and has a negative impact on their ability to function, we've crossed the line. And very specifically with porn, my concern is that a lot of people don't understand the ramifications of consuming too much pornography. And so these are discussions that need to be had in advance. These are things that we have to be willing to dive into, and we cannot brush to the side because, again, I keep saying it, I'm like a broken record. Marriage is a magnifier. These things don't just simply go away because you get married. If they have alcohol addiction, there are deeper rooted issues contributing to why they use alcohol so much as a coping mechanism, because that's typically what's happening. If they have porn addiction, there is a level of underlying issues, but there is a level of chemically what has happened through the overconsumption of it. There's a lot to discuss, but again, I would highly encourage, if that is an issue that exists on either side, just throwing it out there, because sometimes you could be the one who has an alcohol addiction and you're not properly addressing it. Seek professional help in that area. But it is something that, again, it doesn't mean there is no hope in this situation. It just has to be addressed properly first. So let's keep this moving. Now, number 5 is he takes no accountability. So we're going to make this one simple and easy. You've got to pay attention to when a man is unable to take constructive criticism. But notice I use the word constructive. If you've watched my previous videos, then you know I always tell you when you are addressing a man, you need to be mindful of your tone and your energy. You have to express yourself in a calm, loving manner. And again, make your criticisms constructive, not beating him down, not attacking him, not belittling him or emasculating him. No, just in love, giving him correction. All right? And if he is matured, if he loves you, if he's committed to growth in this relationship, then he'll be willing and able to receive that. If he is not, then we have a true concern here that should not be overlooked. Because again, it's about how does this play out over the long run. And so I think what's important, what's hitting me that needs to be said is that many times as a woman, when you meet a guy that you like or for whatever reason you want to make this work with, and I put make this work in quotations because it's not really working, but when you want to try to make it work, there can be a fear of giving any kind of criticism. One example is if you guys have crossed the line sexually, a lot of women fear giving any kind of constructive criticism sexually, all right? And rather suck it up, no pun intended, and say nothing and just push things along, hoping that they can just make it work. They don't want to hurt his feelings. They just want this relationship to continue. But that inability to express yourself or that fear, not only does it not allow you to see, can this man handle that and grow with you in this relationship, but it also leaves you unsatisfied. And it comes back to haunt you later on. And so it can be sex, it can be a lot of different things. But either way, you've got to come out of that fear and express yourself honestly. But again, with love, with positive energy. And he has to show that he is able to take it. And I'm going to throw one more thing out there. You have to give it and you got to take it too. So you've got to be open to his constructive criticism and not retaliate when he gives you the same medicine. All right, and I say that in a loving way, giving you the same medicine as he's trying to criticize with love, not to attack you. Now we're at the sixth reason or sixth habit of a man you should not marry is he is a poor communicator. At the end of the day, if you can't talk to him, you should not be with him. That's it. Because every relationship that I have seen failed, all right, let me not say every relationship. Let me rephrase this. Any relationship that I have seen that they were unable to effectively speak to each other has failed. That is the correct way to say it. People who cannot talk to each other are not able to grow together. They're not able to be on the same page. They're not able to properly pour into each other's needs. There's so many misunderstandings, which causes confusion, which causes chaos. So much goes wrong from a lack of proper and effective communication. So, of course, that's a two-way street. You have to be willing to talk and effectively talk, as well as learn how to properly listen. But he has to as well. This can't be a one-sided relationship where you're a great communicator and he is not, all right? Or vice versa. So, again, these are things that have to be discovered as quickly as possible and corrected as quickly as possible if it is not currently in place. But if it cannot be put into place, you do not move forward with that man. You do not allow yourself to think that somehow you can make this work later. You can't. It won't. You just have to accept the fact that whatever is getting in the way of proper communication or his willingness to communicate better with you, it points to the same result at the end. What will be a failed relationship? So get the hell out of there and keep it moving. All right. So now number 7 is he doesn't set boundaries. All right. And I think I'm going to have to eventually do like some separate videos for some of these points I'm giving, because some of these need a lot more in-depth discussion, but I'm going to kind of roll through the rest of this list to keep it going. So he doesn't set boundaries. So that's with other women. That's with family. That's at work. And what I mean is, again, he's allowing people to constantly cross lines. And so some of you might be thinking, work? What do you mean by work? Well, listen, if he does not know how to establish boundaries with his work, then he will allow his work to control him or consume him in a way that he is now it's going to impact the relationship in a negative way. And again, the work one is something that a lot of women may convince themselves early on, oh, I can deal with this. Or they'll frame it in the way of, well, he's just about his business. He's making things happen. Don't get me wrong. That may be the case to a certain extent, right? But if he does not learn how to correct that, this is one of those things that at some point start to destroy the relationship, start to destroy that marriage, all right? Plenty of women have gotten with the man who makes money but does not give them time, does not know how to balance life and work in a way that allows that man to pour into not just his woman, his kids as well, in the way that they need. And again, these things destroy relationships, but they get easily overlooked in the dating and relationship phase. So they destroy marriages, but they get overlooked in the dating and relationship phase. So again, whether it's work, other women, because maybe he's overly flirtatious with women, or he does not know how to tell other women to not cross certain lines when they're trying to flirt with him, all right? And this can cause problems, and that can open doors that lead to inappropriate behavior, as well as family. And let's get even more specific, maybe his mother. I can't tell y'all how many relationships have been ruined by a man's inability to keep his mother in her place. And I don't say that disrespectfully. I say it, listen, when you get married, you leave your family and you join together with this woman. Yes, that's your mother. Yes, she should be respected and loved, but she doesn't get to run the relationship. And unfortunately, there are men who allow this to happen. And this is another one of those situations where a woman might say, oh, well, he loves his mother. And, like in the beginning, you try to convince yourself it's not that bad, it's not that serious. And that woman ends up driving you insane, right? That woman will drive you into the hospital. Some of y'all will drive you to jail because that's how intense it gets in some situations. So again, you've got to recognize if this man, for whatever reason, cannot set proper boundaries in life, he is not ready for marriage. And like I said, I would argue he's not even ready for a relationship, but marriage, damn sure not. All right, so we got two more real quick. Number 8, the 8th habit of a man you should not marry, he's a liar. Listen, I feel like I heard some of y'all say, well, all men lie. All men do not lie. You know what? If we're going to keep it real, I think every human being on this earth has told a lie. So if we're going to be real technical, all right, I think everyone has crossed that line at some point. But we're talking about the fact that in a relationship, this individual consistently lies, all right? And lies for no damn reason. There are people it's not even necessary they got to tell a lie. Again, when you start to see this pattern occurring, you cannot skip past this issue. You cannot brush it under the rug, because if he lies with a little, he will lie for a lot, all right? The lies will get bigger. They'll get worse. And before we even get to him telling more lies, your ability to feel secure with this man is going to be completely undermined. So a lot of times I've seen women continue on with a man who is a liar, who has consistently lied to them, and really try to believe they can have a successful relationship, while the entire time they have no peace about this person, no peace about this relationship. but they're just trying to ignore that lack of peace, that lack of security emotionally, and still think they can make this work. No, it's not. It's not working. It will not work. It will not get better. You got to nip it in the bud. And if it, again, cannot be corrected, let them go. And now, number 9, last one, is he is physically or emotionally abusive. And so, again, you know, some of y'all may think, well, this should go without being, this doesn't have to be said. Yes, it does. Because a lot of women find themselves in these situations. A lot of women who may even have said, I would never accept this type of behavior, for various reasons, end up in that same scenario and then don't know how to get out. All right. And so it's important that we don't wait till things get worse before we start to realize there's a problem. Emotional and physical abuse starts early, typically, and you start to see signs. You start to see patterns of behavior, but unfortunately, due to various reasons, whether it be the normalization of this behavior because of what we grew up in, because of what other people around us have been through, because of even social media to a certain extent, we overlook certain acts and say, well, again, maybe he's just being a man, or believe it or not, oh, well, he loves me. I remember one time, make a long story short, there was a guy who stalked the woman, his girlfriend, during a time, I guess were they broken up at this time? I'm not sure. But either way, he parked outside the house stalking. And I was like, okay, this is a problem. This is not good. The mother of the woman said, oh, that's what people do when they're in love. And I laughed, but forgive me. I'm only laughing because I couldn't believe that she thought like this. But this is how some of this stuff gets normalized. And so the person going through it doesn't see it for what it is. So we got to start understanding what are foundational behaviors or acts that lead to more emotional and physical abuse. But regardless if you are in that situation or ever find yourself in that situation, you can visit the hotline.org. You probably just saw my phone pop up out of nowhere, but just work with me here. The hotline.org, or you can call 1-800-799-7233. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out this next video on the 9 signs you're not compatible with someone. All right, so there's this quote I want to read to you real quick. And it says, I love this quote, compatibility is overrated. What's required is unity.